Peace and blessings. Welcome back to the channel once again, where we talk all things health and healing from a holistic perspective. And today will be no different. Today, we're going to talk about 12 signs of deficiency that lead to dis-ease. And a lot of times we see these signs and we just sort of placate them off, or we see them and we think to ourselves, well, that's not anything. That's not much of nothing. I see the spot on my nail. That's not anything. That's not nothing to worry about. Or I see this sore here. I probably skinned my skin or something like that, brushed on a piece of metal or something like that. There's a lot of signs and symptoms that pop up every day that are literal check engine light to your body that are telling you something is going wrong. See, when the check engine light typically comes on, the car is still functioning properly, okay? Typically. So you get that check engine light, and what's your first thought? Your first thought is like, oh, snap, like it's a problem. But then you continue to drive and you think about, well, what is this? And okay, I need to get this fixed. And what type of light is this? And before you know it, you're driving and you become less and less conscious about it. And then you will ultimately forget about it. Okay, so we see these signs and symptoms, but often we end up sort of saying, well, the car's still running good, the body is still functioning, so it's nothing to worry about. But it's the small problems that create big problems. Trust me, okay? When you see pre-diabetes, honestly, you probably already have diabetes, okay? When you see your blood pressure elevating a little bit, it's only elevated a little bit because your body is still able to compensate. Okay, and then all of a sudden it's a big problem. Okay, so it's just really important to understand these little small deficiencies that pop up during your checkups, they are big problems they're big problems, although you look at them as small problems. Okay, and here's another important thing about deficiencies. You can't just supplement them away often. Okay, that's why it's called a supplement. A supplement is not the foundation of something, it's something that you add to the foundation. And a lot of people are trying to supplement away their deficiencies. It's just really important to understand that if you have a vitamin D deficiency, you could take vitamin D all you want. What you really need is sunlight, okay? All right, now if you're severely vitamin D deficient, you might want to do both, okay? But you cannot skip over the foundation, all right? You have to understand, we are designed to get the sun, okay? All right, and the sun comes from a very natural place. You can't get more natural than the sun, all right? It's the same thing when it comes to certain vitamins, minerals, trace elements, amino acids, etc. The foundation has to come from a natural place. You can't get this from man-made foods. You can't get this from man-made supplements, okay? All right, they can help, okay, but they are not the solution. So that is the most important thing you need to understand about deficiency. Deficiencies are check engine lights that telling you that your lifestyle is incorrect and you're traveling down the wrong road and you need to switch and go and do a pit stop, okay? You need to do a pit stop, do a checkup, reevaluate, and change how you move, okay? Hugely important. And I think what's also important is to understand why people are deficient, because a lot of times people think it's only because I didn't eat enough of this or I didn't take this supplement. Okay, but let me give you some reasons why people are deficient. Okay, toxicity. All right, toxicity is a major cause of deficiency, and the reason why it is because it takes a lot for the body to be able to rid itself of the toxins, all right? A really good example that I talk to you guys about all the time is when you overconsume alcohol and you become intoxicated with alcohol, all right? You become so intoxicated that you pass out, you lose consciousness. That's how dangerous alcohol is, all right? When you drink an excess amount. And we have to replenish things after you drink alcohol. That's why when somebody comes into the ER, they get what's called a banana bag, and we load them up with vitamins and minerals, specifically B vitamins. Okay? So toxicity can cause you to lose a lot of your nutrition, your nutrients, and cause you to be deficient. A trash diet, okay? A trash diet, and when I say trash, I mean when you turn the food on its back and look at the label, which your food shouldn't have a label in the first place, but when you turn it back on its back and look at the label and it sounds like chemistry and there's over 50 ingredients in there, 25, 15 ingredients in there, you can't recognize most of them, you have a trash diet. Okay, that is toxicity. Again, you're putting toxicity in the body. And the body is having to figure out what is this, because again, it doesn't come from a natural place, and real recognizes real. All right. Number 3, parasites. If you got parasites in your gut, in your brain, in your body, a parasite is what it sounds like. It consumes your nutrients. All right. It's feeding off of you, which is making you deficient. This is why I'm saying it's so important to periodically do a full body detox, okay? So if you have not signed up for my September group detox, the deadline to join is August 19th. Make sure you sign up. Part of the detox is getting rid of parasites and yeast. We'll talk about yeast in just a second. All right, go to drbobbyprice.com. So parasites. What else causes deficiencies? Deficiencies cause deficiencies, okay? If you are deficient in one thing, your body is gonna overcompensate, okay? That overcompensation may look like, taking a lot of fats to create more, more healthy fats other places in the body. That deficiency may look like overproducing one, a mineral or vitamin or enzyme in the body, and then your body has to overcome by producing more of something else. Okay, but deficiencies can actually cause deficiencies as well too. Okay, low stomach acid. If you have low stomach acid, that can lead to a ton of deficiencies as well too, because you're not breaking your food down to get the nutrients out of the food. Okay, and a lot of people are suffering with low stomach acid. Okay, and particularly one of the deficiencies that could happen as a result of low stomach acid is vitamin B12. Okay, and you won't be able to break down your proteins as well too. So you're going to be deficient in amino acids, and the list goes on and on. So low stomach acid can also cause deficiencies as well. Gut dysbiosis, that's when you have an unhealthy microbiome inside of your gut. The good bacteria is missing, it's not there. Okay, and a lot of that good bacteria is manufacturing a lot of the vitamins and minerals that we need, on top of making antibiotics. Not the antibiotics that you get in pill form or you get from your doctor, but your actual microbiome, the good bacteria in your gut, when it's healthy, can make its own antibiotics to fight against infections. Okay, so it's hugely important when you have an unhealthy gut, which most people do. That's going to not only create deficiency, but that's going to create an increased risk of infection. That's going to increase body fat on your body. That's going to increase permeability inside of the gut, meaning all this trash that's in the gut, the fecal matter can now cross over that barrier. Okay, so it's a huge issue. Another reason, yeast overgrowth. Okay, again, another part of what the group detox or my detox is about is getting rid of the yeast in your body that's causing you to love sugar and things that are very unhealthy for you. Okay, so this could also lead to deficiency because yeast is also consuming your vitamins and minerals and trace elements and nutrients as well too. All right, an unhealthy lifestyle. Unhealthy lifestyle not only includes diet, but also a sedentary lifestyle, no movement. Also not getting enough sun. You don't get enough sun, you don't get enough vitamin D. Okay, so that's hugely important as well too. All right, a dysfunctional or missing gallbladder. Okay, your gallbladder releases bile. Bile is really important for removing these fat soluble vitamins from our food. So vitamins A, D, E, and K. Okay, so if you don't have a gallbladder, which gallbladder surgery, I think it's one of the number one elective surgeries that people elect to do, removing the gallbladder, or you have a dysfunctional gallbladder where the bile is turned into sludge. This will also lead to deficiency, specifically with the fat-soluble vitamins that I mentioned. Deficiency in the soil. The way that we farm today, a lot of the nutrients that used to be in the soil is not there anymore. So if the food is deficient, you're going to be deficient. This is why it's so important to get your food from sources and farmers who practice sustainability when it comes to agriculture, so that it protects the soil and allows the soil to not only be healthy, but to be nourishing to you and the food as well too. All right. Eating a lot of sugar. Okay. If you're one of those people with a sweet tooth, if you got a sweet tooth, you have deficiencies. Okay. That's just what sugar does. It depletes the body of a lot of nutrients because it takes a lot to get rid of the sugar, and the sugar causes so much damage in the body and inflammation. And the body's response to that inflammation is what is causing you to be depleted of those nutrients, okay? Overexertion and empty water. And what I mean by that is if you're working out really hard, what you'll notice is that if you're sweating a lot, in that sweat is a lot of nutrients coming out of your body, okay? Particularly minerals, sodium, all types of minerals are coming out through your sweat. So you have to replace them. A lot of those electrolytes are coming out. This is why they say it's so important to consume electrolytes, not only after, vigorous exercise, but in general, your water should not be empty. This is why when you're drinking distilled water that has no nutrients in it, this is why it could be so dangerous, because you're drinking essentially what is empty water. It has no vitamins, minerals, trace elements in it. Okay. And then the last thing is too much alcohol. And I mentioned that one before. So those are just a few things that cause deficiency. Okay. There's many more, but those are just a few that cause deficiencies. And as I said before, small problems create big problems. Okay. If you don't change your oil, you might end up needing to change out your engine. Okay. If you don't do a transmission flush, you may end up needing a new transmission. So that's what I mean by when that light comes on and says, hey, you need an oil change, then it's really important to understand that you have to address the issue. Okay. All right. So hugely important. So now we're going to jump into the 12 signs of deficiency that lead to dis-ease. So these are things that you literally can police on your body. You could be that first doctor for yourself and look at yourself and see what the issues are. Okay. Now, here's the most important thing, and I say this all the time. When you go into your doctor, they can only help you based upon what you're able to tell them about you. Okay. So when you come in, they're going to ask you, well, tell me what's going on. All right. And then you'll say, well, I've been coughing and sneezing for a couple of days now. The back of my throat is itchy. I got, pains all over my body, particularly in the top of my shoulder. I'm fatigued. Based on what you tell them, they make an assessment as to what is going on. Okay. So the more conscious you are about what those signs and symptoms means, or those checkout engine lights mean, you could be your first doctor and do something about it yourself. Make the adjustment yourself. And sometimes you could do something about it early. Like, I've mentioned this before in other videos, but at the sign of an itchy throat, like that's the first sign you want to be going for some oil of oregano. All right. You don't want to wait till you get sick. All right. You get that itchy throat, that first scratch in the back, and you're like, oh, that's a little bit different. You got to be conscious. Then you do something about it. So this is why understanding these 12 signs of deficiency that lead to dis-ease is so important. Okay, so let's get into it. Number one, if you tap on your shin like that and it hurts, that's a sign that you possibly have vitamin D deficiency. Because when you're vitamin D deficient, the bones will become tender. Okay, and specifically on the shin. So take an opportunity every now and then, especially if you know you've had issues with vitamin D before in the past, and somewhere around 75 to 80% of people of color have issues with vitamin D deficiency, tap on your bone on your shin. If it feels sore, that's a good sign that you're vitamin D deficient, all right? Number 2, oily skin. When your skin is oily all the time, that's usually a sign that you have excess androgens in the body, okay? These are hormones, all right? And that'll cause the skin to be really oily. That's typically a sign of either zinc deficiency and other minerals. And it's also typically a sign that you're consuming too much sugar as well too, okay? But, if it's too many androgens, that also could mean that, especially for women, if you have a condition known as PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome, it probably means that your insulin is elevated because you're consuming too much sugar in the form of refined carbohydrates. And this will also cause your skin to be oily. And you'll also notice with women who have PCOS, they'll start to get the chin hairs, okay? And that's coming from the excess androgens that I talked about just a second ago, okay? So oily skin, all right? Don't just say, oh, I just got oily skin. That's how my skin works. Nope, that's a sign of symptom, so pay attention to it, all right? Number 3, and this is sort of a weird one, but I learned this one from one of my cousins, craving cornstarch or like weird stuff, okay? I've seen people eat like clay and crave it, cornstarch. That is typically a sign and symptom that you're anemic. Okay, you have an iron deficiency, and you could also have a zinc deficiency as well too. The condition is often referred to as pica, which is a craving or eating things that are not food. Okay, and so one day I walked into my cousin's house and I noticed that she had piles of like cornstarch. And so I asked her son, I was like, why does she have all of this cornstarch? And he goes, she eats it. And I was like, what do you mean she eats it? What does she put it in? Like, is she making something? He's like, no, she just takes a scoop of it and eats it. And I said, oh, she has a deficiency. And sure enough, she goes in and her iron levels are like through the floor. Okay, so craving cornstarch. Another one, number 4, is craving ice. That's also a sign of iron deficiency as well too. So if you ever see somebody who literally they're on their way home and they stop at a store to get a cup of ice, or they're just always crunching on ice, it's typically a sign of iron deficiency, okay? Number 5, white spots on your nail, okay? So if you look at your nails and you see just a white little spot, like it's almost like somebody took a little piece of nail polish and went across your nail, little small spot, that's typically a sign of zinc deficiency, okay? And it often means that you're probably eating too much sugar because sugar depletes your zinc, okay? You're gonna see some reoccurring themes here, all right? So if you look at your nails and you see a white spot, or maybe you had that weekend when you went nuts, you passed by your favorite donut spot and you just had to check out 26 different flavors. And then all of a sudden, a couple of days later, you got that white spot on your nails. That it could be that. So because a lot of people will tell me, well, I typically don't eat a lot of sweets. Yeah, you can have a weekend where you binge and go crazy. Okay, so a white spot on your nails, typically a zinc deficiency. And we're going to talk about why that's so important for men in just a second. All right. Number 6, poor night vision. Okay. If you have decent vision during the day, but at night, your vision is really poor, it typically means that you have a vitamin A deficiency. And you also could be deficient as a result of consuming a lot of cereals and refined grains. All right, reoccurring theme. Cereals and refined grains turn into sugar in the body. All right, so poor night vision, vitamin A deficiency. All right, can see pretty decently during the day, but at night, it starts to get a little hazy. All right, so number 7, premature graying, okay? If you're like, you got a head full of black hair and then all of a sudden, it's not time for gray hair and you start to get gray hairs, it could be a sign of 2 things. It could be a vitamin D deficiency, okay? So you could be, and listen, I know people who get enough sun, but they still have a vitamin D deficiency because their kidneys or their liver is toxic. So you can get enough sun and still have a vitamin D deficiency because the sun rays have to then go to the liver to be converted to another form. And then it has to go to the liver to convert that sunlight into another form to make vitamin D. But if you don't have a healthy liver and you don't have a healthy kidney, you won't convert it. All right. So you still could be vitamin D deficient. All right. But another big reason why people have premature gray hairs is vitamin B12 deficiency. Okay, vitamin B12 deficiency. Okay, so that's a really huge one. I talked about that one earlier because if you have low stomach acid, that could, end up, this could be the problem with you having vitamin B12 deficiency. Okay, because you need a high enough stomach acid to be able to cleave off what is called a R protein from the vitamin B12 so that it will be readily available for absorption. But if your stomach acid is too low, it won't do that. All right, so premature graying, vitamin D deficiency, or vitamin B12. All right, number 8, cracks on the back of the heels. Like you got the back of your heel looks all cracked and ashy and all that stuff. Or the corners of your mouth start to crack. You just notice that like it start to crack out of nowhere. Like you yawn and you crack the side of your mouth and you get a sore there. That could be as a result of B vitamin deficiencies. Okay, could be vitamin B2, vitamin B3, but it's typically a vitamin B deficiency. Okay, it also could be as a result of vitamin D as well too. As you know, the more if you get a sufficient amount of sun, it's also skin protective as well too, even though they tell us that, being in the sun is dangerous. Okay. Now think about this. For hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors not only lived outside and worked outside for the vast majority of the day. So imagine this, 300 years ago, no AC. Do you think people are just going to be inside of a hot hut all day or a hot house all day? No, people are outside. Okay, doesn't matter what culture you come from, most people are outside, in the sun. Okay, so it didn't matter what culture, what color you were, most people were outside in the sun. And if you go back 200 years ago, cancer rates of the skin are very low. So it's not the sun that is just the issue. Okay, hugely important. Number 9, bleeding and red gums. Okay, if your gums, you start to brush your teeth and all of a sudden your gums start to bleed, or you just notice your gums look like hot red and look kind of swollen. Now, of course, that could be like a condition known as gingivitis, but typically what that is a sign of is vitamin C deficiency. Okay, vitamin C. It's like having mild scurvy. Back in the days, sailors would take out to the ocean and they would take a lot of lemons, limes, oranges with them because these are the things that were loaded with vitamin C, and this would prevent them from getting scurvy. And scurvy is a condition that it could be fatal. And so it's just important to know and understand these check engine lights. Okay, a deficiency looks like bleeding gums. A very severe case of this looks like scurvy, which could be fatal. Okay, number 10, loss of the lateral eyebrows. So if you only got this part of your eyebrows, like from the pupil in, and you lose this part, that could be a sign of thyroid hormone deficiency. All right, which leads to a condition we know as hypothyroidism. And people typically will get a drug called Synthroid. okay, to replace the thyroid hormone that they're not producing inside of their thyroid, okay? But it's really important to understand that your thyroid deficiency could be as a result of deficiency in selenium, which is key. It also could be a deficiency in iodine, but it also could be heavy metal toxicity as well too. So hugely important. The next one, number 11, erectile dysfunction. Okay. Now I know a lot of my fellas are tuning in for this one, erectile dysfunction. The flag won't stand up. The banana has gone limp. Okay. Everything is a noodle. If that is happening for you, one of the deficiencies is zinc. Okay. Zinc is very important for men. Okay. Very important for men. And men are often very deficient in zinc, especially today. So correcting your zinc is very important, but also making sure your testosterone levels are balanced as well too. All right. And number 12, discolored nails. Okay. Discolored nails. Especially if you get discolored nails that are sort of brownish, yellowish. Okay. And if they're sort of brownish, what that's saying is it's probably a vitamin B12 deficiency. And I see these things all the time. Now, let me say this. If you come to an event, my tour is starting like next month, and I'll be to a city near you. So if you're in Chicago, New York, DC, Atlanta, Miami, Charlotte, etc., go to drbobbyprice.com. You can get your tickets there. But if I see you, I'm not looking you up and down to see if you got any of these symptoms, but I'm saying like, these are things that are easily noticeable to me because I look for these things on myself. And so I often see people with nails that look kind of brownish, okay? They don't look pinkish like this, okay? And so when I see that, it's typically a vitamin B12 deficiency, okay? Now, what I want you to learn from today is this. You heard some reoccurring things where a vitamin B12 deficiency could cause premature graying. A vitamin B12 deficiency could lead to discolored nails, okay? You heard that a zinc deficiency could lead to white spots on your nails, okay? You also heard that zinc deficiency could lead to erectile dysfunction. You also heard that zinc deficiency could be also tied to oily skin, okay? You also heard a lot of things that are wrapped around vitamin D deficiency as well too. And what I'm trying to teach you is that one deficiency could cause multiple issues. So imagine if you got multiple deficiencies, you can have multiple issues that make you look very, very sick, make you look older, make you have less energy, etc., etc. So this is why it's so important that we address these small problems that become major issues in the future, okay? Now, if you're ready to make the transformation in your health, take the commitment to yourself. That's like, you have to say to yourself that I am so important because when I'm not here, I can't take care of my family. I can't take care of my kids. I don't get to live out my purpose. I don't get to enjoy life. When you understand it from that perspective, then you truly understand that committing to your health is the highest form of wealth. And it's the greatest commitment you can ever make. It's not selfish, okay? And if you need help along that journey, I have a group detox coming up. Make sure you get in there, and I'll see you on the other side of transformation. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button if you like today's content, and share it with somebody who needs to know this kind of information. Until the next time, peace and blessings, and Godspeed.